Hello, everyone. My name is Batuan. Today, I have Christof Wegmann, the founder and CTO of Photon Engine, the famous multiplayer tool that powering hundreds of multiplayer games that you're playing today. 23 years of experience. It's an incredible journey. Today, we'll talk about some of the technical parts of Photon Engine, a little bit of games industry, and being a founder of such a powerful tool. Chris, welcome.
Pleasure to meet you, Batuan. So
Yes.
looking forward.
Yes, looking forward. Well, I've been chasing Photon for years to get you as a sponsor, obviously. So today I'm also very honored to, have an interview with you. This will be fun. Okay, for the ones who don't build multiplayer games, can you explain what Photon Engine is?
So at Photon Engine, we focus on technology and SDKs for developers, for game studios in particular, to enable their games with multiplayer. So usually the first thing a studio decides is for the game engine, which is, let's say, Unity or Unreal or whatever the platform is. So the most popular ones, Unity has been great for bringing so many game developers into the scene. We figured, like 20 years ago, we already thought it makes sense that people play with each other. So we started to focus on connecting people and connecting devices to enable multiplayer. And this is where we are still 20 years later or 22 years later. Still do the same thing. And we have our claim, which kind of tries to nail it, which is we make multiplayer simple. So we want to enable developers to make great multiplayer games and take away the technology burden, let's say, or make it at least simpler. We still have to have very good engineers on the other side. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
23 years is a long time. I'm 35. So basically that's like what? Beginning of multiplayer games. So you witnessed pretty much all the multiplayer games since the beginning.
Yeah, it was the time. So how old were you? 2003. So that was
35,
12.
1991. Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably didn't have a mobile phone back then, but the world was dominated by Nokia phones, right? So this is when we started our company. So we saw what's happening in the mobile space, that these phones would get very powerful and kind of really computers in your pocket, connected all the time with already games which were showing really potential, whatever Tomb Raider on these Nokia phones, still with 64 kilobyte of RAM, so they were very limited. So it was definitely more than Snake, but still we saw the potential. Okay, isn't it a natural thing that you would connect all those players worldwide to play with each other? So this was the idea where Exit Game was born. We started, to build a product, and the first product showcase we built were two cockroaches. You would spit at each other. You would define an angle and the power, and then you would try to hit the other one on different phones, basically Nokia phones, because 90% of the phones on the world were Nokia phones.
Yeah.
So that was how everything started.
How much it evolved since then to today? Because now we have massively multiplayer games.
So there was already a GDC back in the days, right? So Game Developers Conference, which was the ultimate place to go for anything related to gaming. And there was Doom, there was Unreal, which was not an engine, but a game. So you would go to San Francisco to celebrate this and meet the people. And we were there as well. But because we were in the mobile space and that space was not taken serious by these console and PC game companies, right? This was a joke. This is like kids play. So, and we were not in San Francisco, but actually in San Jose to have the mobile conference. But I mean, fast forward to today, mobile gaming has become huge, right? But there was even a long time where we were praising that multiplayer would come to mobile phones. And there was a long time where it wouldn't. So it took, I think, Supercell Clash Royale was the first title which would be number one and show, oh, this is actually possible. I can play in real time against other players. And we were very, very focused on mobile initially, and we were very focused on Unity. So we selected Unity as a game engine when they were really a tiny company from Copenhagen. But we saw potential that this could become really an interesting engine because you could see the interest from this independent game developers who would now have a tool to build games for free and using Photon for connected stuff. So there was already Unreal out there as an engine, but it was extremely expensive to acquire a license of Unreal back in the days.
Yeah, changed now. Yeah. Okay, today, how does the Photon Engine shape the multiplayer workflow then? Like anyone who wants to make a multiplayer game, they come to Photon. How is the process?
So how we evolved in the past 20 years. So the first 10 years, we built like a backend with registration, login, high scores, simple turn-based multiplayer, payment stuff. We didn't succeed with that platform. I think the product was great, but timing was not so great. So we couldn't sustain it. We couldn't make it work. So, and then in the second half, like whatever, 13 years ago, we started to focus on real-time multiplayer. And this time the timing was right to go from back in the days to now how multiplayer evolved. So in the beginning, we built something just to exchange data very fast. So we would run data centers around the globe for low latency reasons, because if you want to offer your product in the US, they should be able to play low latency Europe and Asia, right? So we had to provide data centers and our services everywhere. So first product generation was exchange data, small packages, UDP based, very high frequency, low latency. That was our first product. We called it real time. And it was, I would say, one of the first of its kind, definitely for mobile. And because Unity, there was no such thing so convenient, we were able to get quite famous with the Unity engine. So then the next product was we took like a multiplayer API that was in Unity called Unity Networking, and which wasn't working great. And we kind of made it work on top of Photon Cloud, on top of the real-time protocol. So that was our first product, which made it very convenient to synchronize more complex characters and items and have first very powerful games, very successful games out, which were using PUN, which is Photon Unity Networking. So that was the name of that product. And then every 1 or 2 years, we kind of reworked our platform, made it better. So after PUN, which is now PUN Classic, there was PUN 2. And after PUN 2, we did Bold, which was a super sophisticated client-server technology, which was using everything developers would know from Counter-Strike, and sophisticated synchronization would be available in Bold. So after Bold, we came up with Quantum. So in Quantum was like a fully deterministic engine. So people wouldn't have to know netcode anymore. So if you build a game in Quantum, it looks like you build a local multiplayer game. So let's say you would play a game with 4 players. As a developer, it looks like 4 game controllers are attached to your game. So you do not see a network, right? Netcode and networking would be automatically happening. And this was the beauty of Quantum. And Quantum, every year we launched a new generation, reinvented ourselves and the product and made it better and better integrated with Unity, better integrated with the platform support. And the 2 flagship products we have are Quantum and Fusion. And traditionally, we are very, very strong in Unity, which is still the case. So we focus very much on Unity. Quantum is only available for Unity and is powering incredibly good games. So the biggest mobile game or the biggest mobile game, we power was Stumble Guys, which is known worldwide.
We'll come to that.
Golf Clash was another title which is quite famous, which we powered, and we're able to see this crazy growth of mobile titles if they pick up steam. And now we are even going in console quality titles. So just launched a couple of days ago was No Rest for the Wicked, which is from Moon Studios, famous for Ori, and they launched this game on Steam, and it's incredible. So we haven't thought when we started Quantum that studios would be able to build this console quality of games with Unity and Quantum.
It's like with the product, you never know what will be the real life use cases.
Yes, exactly. And with Quantum, we are proud because the holy grail, of course, is to work with the biggest studios in the world. If you are a tools provider or tools developer, you work really hard, and we are happy for any customer, right? Even hobbyists, students, people who want to learn. Then you wait for your first success. Our business model is usage and success. So we need successful customers to make sense for us, right? We are very cost efficient, but still we need that success. And we were finding that success getting bigger and bigger. Now we are able, or we have the honor to work with Spark teams from Supercell, from Scopely, from Netflix, Disney. So kind of the biggest companies in the world. And especially for mobile, Quantum is kind of the preferred choice.
So Quantum, you praise a lot for mobile. What about Fusion? What is this, best case usage?
Yeah. So when we meet these developers, that's what I want to say. So if we go to conferences, meet developers, right? And if our philosophy is to build the best multiplayer product. So we are like a very engineering heavy company. So, and we are not selling our products, quote unquote, but the first question we ask to a studio who is interested in Photon and says, oh, I want to build multiplayer. So it's not about we say, okay, this is boom, 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 these are the features. It's rather asking, okay, what are you building? What type of game are you trying to build? Is it a competitive first-person shooter? Is it a fighting game? Is it a co-op game? What is the target platform? Is it for mobile? Is it for web? Is it for PC? So, and based on these questions, there are different multiplayer architectures and topologies which are preferred because they are basically made for this use case. So, and Fusion and Quantum are exactly this. Depending on the type of game, you would select one of them. So Fusion, for example, is originally designed to work for competitive shooters, like Counter-Strike, Fortnite, Apex, this type of stuff. And Quantum was designed for networked physics, let's say, and games like Stumble Guys or Fall Guys or Rocket League, anything where you have complex physics or fighting games. Then, so this is always the first iteration with a customer. We try to ask, okay, what are you trying to build? And then we recommend like a product.
Basically, when you look at Photon Engine's website, you have your own multiplayer ecosystem. You have the tutorials, programs, events that you join. You have one tournament. We'll come to that later. And then any kind of game that you're planning, there's one product suitable for you, right? Long story short.
Simplified, we have a tool which is called Quadrant. We said there are 4 main topology choices if you build a multiplayer game. And we put in these quadrants, put the genres and reference games which are suited. So, and then you would see you want to build a fighting game, for example, you would end up in the quadrant topology. If you build a competitive shooter, you would probably end up in the Fusion dedicated server quadrant. So this is a bit, since the framing of today and of where Turkey is super strong in this hyper casual space, let's say, and mobile, let's say, if you would be in this realm, you would probably tend to be in the quantum quadrant, most likely.
Anyone developing multiplayer games or planning to check out Photon's website for sure. So very interesting case. You're also the co-founder of Stumble Guys. So how did this happen? You wanted to, test the product and say, let's make a game and see how it goes, or yeah, interesting story.
Yeah, so this was quite cool. So it was a time where Fall Guys was a roaring success.
Yeah.
So it conquered a console world, and to have this game where 32 players would be in an obstacle course and completely goofy, be thrown around, everything would be networked, it was just a very cool concept. So we saw the success on console, really high quality production. And then we thought, this is the perfect use case for quantum technology. We thought quantum is the only technology available at that time which would be able to bring Fall Guys to mobile. So we said, okay, let's build a tech showcase to show technically as a sample to our customers how you would build Fall Guys for mobile. It looked horrible, right? It was the characters looked bad, the level was looking bad, the rotating turrets were like super ugly. But technically it worked spot on. And I saw this and thought, what about if just for fun, we look for a partner and launch it on the App Store just to see how this would be. But this was really an experiment. So I called a couple of companies we are friends with, where we knew, they would, they know Quantum already. I ended up calling like a super small studio from Finland, Olli, and he said, this is cool, but I'll pass. I think it's too tough. It's too risky. I said, okay, well. He called back the next day and said, hey, I thought about it. What can we lose, right? It's just fun. Let's do this for a couple of months.
He went to sauna and then
Yeah, exactly. And then, eventually, I think 3 or 4 weeks later, the first prototype was ready. We saw it. And they decided a lot of things where we thought, this is a bad design decision. So he made the game turn to landscape and not portrait. So we thought, this is a mass market, hyper casual. You would not want the users to turn the phone, right? But anyway, we said we are not game developers, right? We are technology people. We build multiplayer tech. We have an opinion on a lot of things. Anyway, but this was so spot on. The game was so much fun from day one, and the team launched the game. And I think the day one retention, was 55%. So every game, usually you are looking to get to 30 or something, or 35, but start lower. And we had this crazy day one retention. So you could see, well, what is the answer for this? The game is incredibly fun.
Yeah.
And monetization was 0, right? So disaster. But every week in the beginning, I think, or every 2 weeks, new version, enhancement. And then at some point, streamers picked it up. I think Brazil was the first country to go berserk with that game. They went crazy. So it number one in Brazil, and then from Brazil it went to Portugal, number one there, and then it spread across Europe, number one all over Europe, and then to Asia, number one in Asia, and then went back to US. And there was not even in the beginning, there was only Android, not iOS. Yeah.
Stumble
And
Guys,
long story short,
mobile is the king.
Yeah, it was 2 million downloads a day, number one in pretty much any country in the world. And we did a Steam version, which did really well. So cross-play, the exact same game would run on Steam and on mobile. It was super fun. At some point, it was overwhelming, so we couldn't.
But it gave to scope.
The studio was very, very overwhelmed. So eventually, we found Scopely as a new owner. I think it was a right decision, and they did it properly, even though the game was very bloated. So when we did it, it was more pure. I think it was more kids friendly, but that's as well. If something gets very professional, it's not always what you as a dad of kids want, right?
It has to make money after all. Now I see it's almost all the platforms. I see it's completed a good job, obviously. I quickly checked. It's more than 100 million just on Google Play Store, and then pretty much everywhere else. I don't know the exact numbers, but congrats. So you basically kept Photon for 23 years, but you made an exit with a game, yeah?
Yeah, so like Photon was rather in the past 13 years, right? The product before was different, but yeah. So we said, okay, we to own a game is a distraction, so we rather focus on Photon. This is what we know, and the game was like a lottery ticket, right? It was nothing really we could repeat.
You go back to passion. All right, great story. Back to Photon. So we had a game company as well from Estonia, a competitive shooter. I'm not sure if you were using Photon or not, but anyway, like all the multiplayer games, which is new on the market, the user base, right? Is it retention? Does it go the viral in one day, and so on? So, what do you think when it comes to multiplayer games? What is the number one thing that player is looking at? Like the game itself, the design. There's no lag. The matchmaking. Based on your experience, what's most important?
What our job is to enable developers to make multiplayer look seamless, right? So on your local screen, everything needs to make sense.
Yeah.
So when you say lag, so how I define lag is I do something on my local character and it feels like it's lagging, right? It's not reacting right away, right? It feels like something is off. Or everything else is choppy and like and you feel like you cannot hit anyone. It's a total disaster. So latency is just a reality. It's out there. Latency exists because speed of light, right? If I play with you, it takes 100 milliseconds for my information to travel to you, pure physics. Technically, you and me would play on the server in Amsterdam. So I would send the data there, you would send the data there, and this is distributing the data, but it's more clever. It's not just a stupid relay which would send packages around. It would actually store the game state as well. So you can make smart things and do checks and everything. So latency, we do this by having 21 data centers worldwide to have low latency, hopefully everywhere. There is a use case where you want to play with your friend who's maybe in the US, right? And then this is worst case because the data has eventually to travel a long distance. So there's just a certain latency, let's say 50 milliseconds, super, 100, okay, 150, 200. Suddenly it gets more complicated, let's say you mentioned a competitive shooter, right? Where you would say, okay, there's a certain amount of latency where you can't handle it properly anymore. And this is a bit what we try to enable, let's say, to make a game which works well with even high latency. Competitive shooter is maybe one of the most challenging things you can do because people are these professional players are very demanding. If it's on mobile, maybe not so much, right? Maybe you get away with a decent multiplayer. But yeah, you have to deal with a lot of things. So the frequency you send, for example, on mobile, we say the default is 30 hertz. So you send data 30 times a second, which is already quite high. But the shooters on the PC would send 60 hertz or 60 times a second. And that ultimately makes a difference, right? If you transfer data that often. Matchmaking, yeah, it's important, and I think it's super important for PC games to try to find players which have a similar strength, and you have good games, right? But We found we have a very pragmatic matchmaking on Photon Cloud. You can replace it with your own or with very sophisticated ELO-based matchmaking. But for example, for Stumble Guys, we got away with relatively simple matchmaking, and that was just fine for 25 million daily active players.
25 million. Back then, probably it's more right now.
Yeah, it was 1 million concurrent players at peak. If you look on the Steam DB, right, and look into the top played games, whatever, you will find Counter-Strike on number one with whatever 1.5 million or something. Like a million is you already, I think, number 3 or number 4, you're already below a million. A million CCU means 25 million daily actives and about times 20, 500 million monthly actives. Yeah.
Now we have faster internet, 5G, everything, right? And then there's the cloud gaming, which was a super hype back then. I'm not sure about the hype right now. You have some cloud operations as well. A little bit about Photon Cloud, and then what do you think about cloud gaming today?
So we call our service on Photon Cloud to say, okay, there are no servers. So if you, as a game studio, you launch your game, you don't have to deal with servers and scaling. So we do that, and we put enough capacity in, and we allow you to grow basically no matter what. So this is important, and we have like a recent success from Landfall Games from Sweden with the game Peak. You may have heard about it, right?
Yeah.
Went all across the press. So this is a success. It's hard to plan for it. You just need to put capacity in place. So this is what we do, and this is why a cloud is great. But technically, we do not use a cloud provider. We have bare metal servers in place to be very cost efficient, because we want to have very competitive and cost efficient prices to our customers. If we would use Amazon or Azure or Google, they are quite expensive in comparison in terms of traffic and so on. So that was answer to your first question. For us, it's cloud means seamless scalability, and you don't have to deal with operations. We do everything with DDoS attacks, and everything that's happening in the wild, we take care of it, or we help to mitigate it. Cloud gaming for me is, just to be sure we're on the same page, is for me, you like the game is running on the server and you just play via a remote picture. So you don't have the game running locally, right?
Yeah.
This is around since forever. I remember even back in 2006, the first providers were offering this and promoting this. And then Google tried to get into the market with Stadia and pulled it out. And there's Xbox gaming and PlayStation gaming and so on. The promise is no install necessary, right? But you need really a spot-on connection. Is it a success? Maybe you know. So for us, it's really the game is always running on the client, even in web games or on the mobile phone. It's always running on the local client, and we do connectivity from the client through the internet to the server side and back to the client. So this is a bit our focus. But by the way, for cloud gaming, Photon would work as well. So we worked with Stadia Games to connect game instances. It would just be running on the server side. So if you ask me personally, but that doesn't mean anything, I'm not a believer in this cloud streaming and cloud gaming thing. I believe that having your games installed locally is a big advantage. I think web games are cool because you can just send a link and you can instantly play it. So this is exciting, but still the game has to be loaded into your web browser to be executed.
Yeah, trying to play a AAA online, even with the best internet, is still not something feasible. Right. So back to developers. You go to a lot of events. You support the developers. What can a developer find in your community when it comes to multiplayer? Because not everyone, like this obviously requires a lot of experience with backend development, server side, and so on. Me as a solo developer, an indie developer, I want to make an indie game. I know programming, obviously, not just blueprints. Can I make something with photons, like just watch the tutorials or something? Or do I need a previous experience before I come to Photon?
Yeah, so the first thing, as always, is a game engine, right? So you would probably pick Unity or Unreal or Godot, let's say, which are popular choices. So this is already quite a learning curve to let's say do everything game related and figure this out. And then if you do a multiplayer game, you use our SDKs. So you sign up on our website, you have access to the SDKs, you can create applications. So development is free. We have a quite intense documentation for all our products with the different versions and everything. So that's good. We see the documentation already pulled into the AIs out there, from OpenAI to Claude and so on. So even if you ask stuff, these engines will already give you quite good answers. So Dennis, so he joined us more than a year already ago and is working on creating videos with creators. So because it's very popular and very effective to learn stuff by watching videos and tutorial videos. It's of course technical guys. It's not.
Yeah.
These presentations are technical, and if you would want to use Photon, you need to be technical to some extent. So it's not just drag and drop. But yeah, that's our ambition, let's say, to make it simpler. So with every iteration, we have a lot of samples, which we started long time ago, that we started to build reference cases as samples with teams, sometimes with external teams, nowadays more with internal teams. So for example, we have a Mario Kart-like gameplay or mini golf or Rocket League or an
Basics.
RPG fighting game. So we tried to capture first person shooter and battle royale type of gameplay. So if you go onto our website and samples, you will see an incredible amount of samples, which you could download. We are in the asset stores, of course. So this is our strategy, to have a lot of samples to
Very
have
community
something running.
friendly, basically. And I think it's very important for tools such as yourself is to, have a lot of documentation and community building. Otherwise, people try to get in, they can find anything, and then they ditch the platform. Try to find a tutorial on YouTube, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. 23 years as a CTO and founder. You have to check Christof's LinkedIn. Still interesting story. And then lottery ticket on Stumble, guys. But what is the future? Obviously, technology is evolving every day, and you didn't keep yourself stable. I mean, like with the same product, you kept adding something new. What's the vision and the roadmap for Photon?
So we have been lucky and working very hard to be where we are, in terms of that we are a successful company. We are not so we are cash flow positive. We are profitable since a long time. We were able to be sustainable. What we are doing is to focus on the product. So our philosophy has always been to be a product first company. We have almost no salespeople.
Except
And
Mark.
quote unquote, we have. And he's not a salesperson, right?
He's
He's
a
so
BD.
passionate. He would say he's a developer, right? So he operates, he works with Unity, with Unreal. You can have a lot of fun with him. He's very passionate, and he's a very, very creative guy. He's not a salesperson. So is
They say
Robert, so
hi
am
to him.
I. Yeah. And this is cool because we found a product that was pulled in by the market, by the developers.
Yeah.
And so we have a good reputation. And in terms of engineers, we are about 60-ish people now, and most of them are very good engineers. And this is a luxury to focus on product development. So this is what we are driven by. So we just launched Quantum 3.1. So we already set sales for Quantum 4. We launched Fusion 2.1. We already set sails for Fusion 3. And it's already live in Unreal. So we just launched our first Unreal SDK we worked on for 3 years. We will go launch a product for Godot. We will go into web engines, into Default, into GameMaker, into Play Canvas. So like the shock wave, which is going through the industry right now with Claude Code, enabling companies to accelerate and to enable smart engineers to work very fast.
Maybe eventually everything will be multiplayer. Is it possible? Kids don't play outside anymore, so
I think most games are multiplayer. There are a lot of narrative and single player story-driven games, let's say. But I would say probably the majority of games is multiplayer already.
We have to socialize anyway somehow, right? Kids don't play football outside, but they socialize online. Well, great to hear that Photon is coming pretty much all the platforms, so there will be more multiplayer games coming up. One last question, Chris. What would be your advice for any founder who is building a product-based company? I mean, everything
You
like
mean
all
not a game company, more like a service company?
like service company, but obviously you have an element, you have a core element, right? Like very fundamental. Like if you want to build a multiplayer game, you have to use one of the services, maybe you or a competitor. But since you mentioned the community friendly, you are not founder and CEO, you're founder and CTO, so very technical with a lot of engineers and so on. So like this kind of mindset of people, like engineer founders, not like sales and CTO together, but very engineer and product focused.
Yeah, I believe that this is the best way is if you can be product first for me, right? And not sales driven, but I don't want to lie, but we had a very, very tough time for several years back then where we had a great product, but the market wouldn't pull it, wouldn't be willing to pay for it, or we would suddenly have competition which would be free. But once you have your product in motion and you feel it's a product that actually there's market demand for and where you are able to pay your bills, you're able to grow, then this is great. But it's very hard to convince investors, because I was, for a long time, I tried to find investors and wouldn't get them because they would say, oh, this is not scalable enough and it doesn't grow enough. And then once we were able to get there by ourselves, and then you get all those offers and then you don't need it anymore.
Too late.
It's like
chicken egg roll.
And this is why games are funded, because they have this Stumble Guys explosive growth. So with Stumble Guys, we were in 1 year, we were where Photon was in 10 years.
Yeah, it's a great product.
But we are these product guys, engineers, and this is great. It's very hard to get where we are. So in that sense, I have not really a lot of good tips.
Good tips is focus on your product. And maybe time to time try, I don't know, take some of the games to mobile from PC and see if it scales like Stumble Guys. Well, Chris, pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
For years, 11 years ago, I was making mobile games as well. So I know Photon from those years. It was not multiplayer, but anyway, back in days. So it was a pleasure meeting you. Hope to see you at Mobidictum this year. There will be a lot of developers. And check out Photon Engine's website. There's a lot of products plus a lot of tutorials. And keep making great games. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope I have a bit more time to turn the table and ask you a couple of things, actually, because I'm very interested on your view on the market where you are in, on Turkey in particular, but overall Europe, let's say, and where you see things going.
So basically, we have the trend also in Turkey. A lot of developers, instead of raising talent there are like more founders coming into games industry, like more games coming in. And eventually, I think the indie side, like indie developers will crack down the business of games as well, where everyone will, not everyone, but most people will think more strategically to see like how the games will make, because the games is also a business. And then with the AAA, how there's a shift more indie games and AI enabling the development speed and having more founders and tools like Photon being accessible, I think there will be a lot of competition coming up, and it will come down to distribution, because before there was a couple of games and there was like the market was hungry, but now there's a lot of content, right? So the distribution, the guy with the biggest pocket for the market distribution will win. Or as an indie developer, you get some viral game, and then it will be a huge success. I don't think there will be somewhere between, because the competition for digital screens are coming from everywhere, right? Back in days, like 20 years ago, we had PC, and then we play, I don't know, 20 hours of World of Warcraft, and there was no other distraction. We could just focus on one game, but now there is Netflix, TikTok, or whatever social medias.
Where do you see web games, or how do you see web games? Do you see as a promising new market?
I think so. 2026, we are in 2020. So in 2020, I was working on one project. They were trying to bring mobile games to web. That company still exists, but I won't mention now. And even back then, it was. I realized it will be a very big opportunity. And I think most of the big mobile publishers are moving their games to web, right? Like mobile is pretty much a third arm with the access of internet, and there are still a lot of countries where the internet access is limited, right? So imagine they come to play without downloading or without paying anything. I think it will be huge. There's already some FPS games on web. I tried a few times. I don't remember the names, but it was pretty much seamless. So I think it has a great future. I'm not sure about the monetization side of things and the scaling part compared to mobile, for example. But I see a big trend on more mobile game companies are putting their games on web.
Yeah, mobile is, like you said, it's like it's so professional, and it's very hard to get to the surface, right, and to be visible.
Yeah.
So on the web, you still are able to do this, but it's very underdeveloped and unprofessional. I think it will be
Like when you look at all the
very
web games,
professional fast.
it's very old, right? Like when you still go to HTML5 game platforms, like super old Flash converted games, which is not fun anymore. But when you like get a successful game and put on web, again, I don't know the numbers and like play times and so on, but the last one example that I remember, Say Games put their entire biggest, maybe majority or entire portfolio on their website. So that's already a very good trend, I guess. Good.
Thanks, Batuan.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you so much.